Hello everyone, EagleX here, and today I have a brand new deck profile for the DigiFest deck series. It's going to be going over the X-Antibody deck. Not only is this a really cool deck creation, but it is something one of my good friends here in the ATX area created, my friend Tien. Do you want to say hello there, Tien?
Hi everyone.
He is the brains behind this deck, and he said I can showcase this deck and show all y'all what he's been playing. We had lots of very strong locals, 20 plus for both. The first one being 33 people, second one being 20 people, and made it to the finals both times. Second place in the first one, first place in the second one after some adjusting for his side deck. And that being said, we can go ahead and start rolling along for the openers and plays for this deck. So first thing, just talking about the opening for this deck and kind of the play style. This deck is really stack-oriented. You look at getting your inheritables online for this deck sooner than later. And one of those strong inheritables is Digimon. The extra check allows extra aggression. His main line's also strong. And Koda's also not a bad opener. He's not your preferred one all the time just because he's not building your stack. He does get you memory. He does get you card consistency, which is good. Similar to Black Memory Boost, you don't mind doing that also for your opener to find your pieces. But evolving with non-X-Antibody Digimon is almost preferred for your early turns because you want to be shoving those in your sources with your level 5 Doru-Greymon's when Digivolving effect and your level 6 Doru-Goremon's when attacking effect. So Tien, when we build the stack in the early game, obviously we have a small hand and we may have to do that at times. But if you're given a choice from all your rookies, what is the one you're always digivolving with it? Is it always Digimon?
Well, yeah, it depends, right? Depends on the hand. But if you have like say a non-X-Antibody, then you would want to digivolve with that first for the rookies, because you want to save the Dorumon for whenever you want to surf one underneath. That's an X-Antibody, because they have to be X-Antibody if you're going to surf them underneath. That's why I always save the Dorumon, if I can. But sometimes that's the only one that you have, so you put it in the stack, regardless.
Yeah. Now, kind of similar, we're talking about Dorumon, the rookie Dorumon, right? If it comes down between slamming a Koda or a Dora, which one would you prefer slamming?
I would always slam Koda first, because Koda gives you, he's a memory fixer, right? And also he searches for X-Antibody. So one of the key cards for the deck is Doru-Greymon himself, the level 5. He's just really good overall. He's one of the probably the best card in the deck, I would say, because he gives you 1 security plus, and then he gives you the immunities, right? And for certain matchups, you kind of need to have him early, because whenever you face against like purple with a lot of Rebellion, you actually want to bring your stack out early. You don't always like keep things in racing, because what happens is that you're probably gonna need to build like 2 stacks. And with the side deck that I have, I need to bring them out early to utilize the side deck well, and I guess we're gonna tackle about the side deck when we get to it. But yeah, sometimes you want to bring him out early, the stack out early, and then digivolve into Doru-Greymon to gain the immunity. Also get a +1 in the stack. Yeah, and then whenever you digivolve into Gora, he swings once, and then he'll have like 6 in the stack. And then when he swings again, he'll have 7 in his stack, and that's the magic number, right? Because Rebel is at 7, Silphimon is at 7. A lot of good level 5s is in the meta right now, is all level 7. So yeah, that's why you want to bring a stack out as early as possible, and Doru-Greymon give +1 in the stack. That's why you want to search him out with Koda or whatever you have, like
or the rookie if you have to, or the memory boost, just depending on where you're at.
Right.
And the Koda makes sense. He's more longevity value. He guarantees you 3 after every turn, while the rookie didn't do that.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's actually a really good key point, and we can kind of go on to the next part of conversations, like deck combos. This is going to be like your bread and butter combos when you get to your top end, but a really good point you were making, though, is getting those sources. Because when you're talking about different matchups, you have to think about what's a problematic card. For you, you identified that as Rebellion in lots of matchups. You try to do a lot of damage. Well, the only way you can delete it before he can block is getting 7 sources, which is where the Dora Greymons come in and the Dora Goramons come into play.
Right.
But anyways, so talking about some things to be mindful of and deck combos for this deck. You'll see the profile here in the next slide, but first, I already mentioned it, Cinerizamon not only has a great inheritable, but his mainline text is super strong for the deck as well. The piercing is a really good enabler for basically getting over any blockers that aren't Rebelli, assuming you don't have the, the immunity from your Dora Greymon. Final Zubagon Punch is also not just pressure, but defensive in a way to use the reboot on your Metal Greymon. And then the third important thing I don't think a lot of people know is putting Dorumon in your own sources will proc his inheritable to gain you memory still. That sound about right?
Yeah. One key point about stacking, right? There's a very important rule in stacking with this deck is that you must always have an extra X-Antibody within the stack beside your egg. Because Goramon actually needs an extra one to be 13k.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Unless, I guess it has to be exactly one. Even the level 4 that says plus 1k would...
Well, you have more than one, but like you need at least one more beside the egg. Is the point? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I'll go ahead and...
First of all, is that you never want to stack Alphamon on top of Metal Greymon. That's a big no. You only do that if you must, because if you don't run the Toy Agumon rookie that gives you reboot, then there's no way for Alphamon to proc the Greymon's effect. Because like he won't be 13k until he attacks, right? Mm-hmm. And when he attacks you at 13k, you're not going to be able to use the punch before then, you know, because you have to be at 13k before you use the punch. And then if you use the punch afterward, then Metal Greymon is not going to do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just for you guys who don't know, if you haven't read the card Final Zubagon Punch, we're going to talk about it. It's one of the key cards of this deck. But the first thing it does is it gives your Digimon plus 3,000 DP. Then if your Digimon has 16,000 DP or more, so basically we talk about a 13,000 DP threshold, because plus 3k gets you 16k, you'll gain blocker, you'll gain reboot, and you'll gain scary attack plus 1 until the end of your opponent's turn, so it makes your big guy be able to restand and be a blocker while being aggressive.
Right.
And just something to talk about and touch on is if you Final Zubagon Punch a Dorugoramon, you swing, you have reboot, so you'll have the extra check if you have the Metal Greymon. You'll have the extra check from the punch itself, and you'll have the initial check from Dorugoramon. That's 3 checks from just the level 5 inheritable, the punch, and the level 6. But then if you go to Chaosmon, it does carry over the buff. Like, you'll have the extra check from Scary Attack plus 1. You'll have the check from the Metal Greymon inheritable. And you'll also be able to pierce over Digimon, and you'll have a big blocker, right?
Right.
That round. Anyway, so that being said, we've talked about the combos, talked about your openers. Let's go ahead and get to the deck profile itself. So here, just to recap, X-Antibody is a very strong toolbox, combo-oriented deck that allows for aggression while clearing your opponent's board. Final Zubagon Punch is the key card to this deck for both your offense and defense, which is why it's a 4 of in this deck. Cinerizamon is a really strong card to run into as well. Right, that's why he's part of the ideal stack. Getting 1 X-Antibody to help get to 13k, excuse me, for your Dorugormon is really big because the egg does count as an X-Antibody. And then our side deck here, because it's a really strong deck by itself, it needs combo pieces. It's really oriented around the matchups that give it the most trouble. For you guys who don't know, Parabolic Junk is a card that's really good to put on your memory blocker. because it says on deletion, do you gain 2 memory? Does your opponent lose 2 memory? Do you know that offhand?
You gain 2 memory.
You gain 2? Okay. So it basically says if your opponent pops a memory blocker, you gain 2 memory, or you can be on your main stack even too. Breath of the Gods basically gives you protection from being bounced, if I recall, right? Or DP reduced, that's what it is.
Yeah, right. Both.
Oh, it's both? Okay, and then the security effect is your opponent can't attack you.
Right.
And then Armageddon being a strong way to shut down level 7s that your opponent may be using, particularly in purple and yellow, as we specified, as those decks actually do provide some problems for this deck, and there are really great side tools for it. So, since we're kind of wrapping up, are there any closing thoughts you have on the deck, TN, or things you want to point out about your deck list?
Well, one of the key point I would like to point out is for any combo deck, right? Your shuffling really matters a lot. So as you can see, you have like 4 of certain cards like the punch and the memory boost and then Coda. And you would think that having 4 of those would be like a lot, and sometimes you see like multiple in your hand, it would be a little bit bricky. But in my opinion, and from all the playing, I see that you don't actually get 3 very often, because like when you search, you actually put a lot of them in the bottom of the deck. Because like, you know, you only get Digimon from your searches. So I don't run into problem like seeing a lot of them in my hand, but those searches give you a lot of consistency in a deck. So the deck operate kind of like Chessmon, is that you build up your stack and then you do really, you know, big swings and, you know, game turning turns. But it's a lot more consistent than Chessmon because you have 7 level 6 that you can go into. Unlike Chessmon, that you can have 4 Chessmon himself and then maybe another level 6. That's not very good. So this deck is a lot more consistent in the way that it runs. And also there are multiple ways that you can build up your stack, right? You don't necessarily have to have your Greymon, for example, and then your Savior Hook. But there are some really good cards that you probably want to search out, especially Doru Greymon and the rookie Dorumon, because they give you a lot of flexibility. And, you know, Dorumon give you 1 memory, and that's very good if you already play a memory booster and your fixer. It's going to give you 6 memory within the turn, so you can go straight up from Dorumon, Doru Greymon into your level 6, and level 6 will retain the immunity. So you can swing in and survive the next turn because it lasts until the end of your opponent's turn. That's why Doru Greymon and Dorumon is actually very good for the deck, and you want to search them out as much as possible. You know, sometimes I can do 5 checks because Doru Greymon, I had like 3 Doru Greymon. That usually doesn't happen a lot, but because you get to search a lot, you will probably end up with 2, usually. But it's okay if you just have 1. As long as you get 1, you're in a good state, right? And then when people look at the side deck, they might find it a little bit interesting, right? Because like the side deck is basically revolve around like dealing with the problematic matchups in purple and Rebellion specifically, because like it kind of stopped any deck that's like you build up a big stack and you swing in 1 turn, because he just stopped your turn entirely, right? So the way to deal with him is actually you want to do 2 stacks. You want to build up your first stack. Basically, you want to bring out your stack as soon as possible, and then you build up your first stack. And then while you build your first stack, you build your second stack in racing. And on your swing turn, even if they have a Rebellion, you use Parabolic Junk, how many you have, you place it on your first stack. The one is going to swing in first. And then they have to decide for themselves whether they're going to let this stack live and check for like 3 checks, or they kill it and give you a bunch of memory. And then if they do give you a bunch of memory, you're just going to go into your second stack and then do the same thing again. But now they already killed their own stack with Rebellion, so they can't really deal with the second stack anymore. And that's how you deal with Rebellion or any kind of like security with a lot of like removal options. Like yellow has like really big removals, right? Yellow purple hybrids, they have a lot of, and sometimes they can side deck in like Happy Bullet and stuff like that. Oh, what is that called? Yeah.
Yeah, Happy Bullet Showering.
Yeah, Happy Bullet Showering, stuff like that. So some of them might, but most of the time, it's good to know your matchup, basically. So side in Parabolic Chunks and Predator Guards or Armageddon whenever you feel like you need them. But usually I only run into trouble against purple and yellow, so that's why I sided them in. For all the matchups, I don't feel like the deck is weak against any matchup because I play basically against all color by now. Yellow hybrids, blue hybrids, Cherubimon, some rogue deck too, which nearly got me. I ran into a Tyrannomon tribal deck and almost get killed by it. So, but overall, it's like, even if you have close games, right, you always come out on top because like how the deck just clear everything off the board whenever it comes out. When it comes out with Gora is going to clear up 2 small guys, and then you Digivolve Chaosmon on top of that, and you're going to clear out the big guy. And then you're going to take off all of their security. They'll be at 1 or 0 most of the time. And then they have to overcome your big Chaosmon, that's like 17k with the punch, and he's a blocker, and he's unsuspended. So then they have to kill him and then have a blocker out or something so you don't go into Grumble and you finish game on your next turn. There's a lot of things that they have to do. They either have to win or clear up your board and make sure that you cannot swing in your final hit. So the way the deck functions is kind of like Chessmon. You don't OTK, but you put your opponent in a position that they cannot overcome.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have a lot of good matchups. Like a lot of blue hybrid player, things that like because you rely on your sources, X-Antibody and all that. That's why they can strip sources and they think they're good. But the thing is that you can hide in raising, right? You build your stack in raising against blue, and then you just play memory boost into you can feel it's safe to bring it out. And then once you bring it out, you just OTK them. They don't have a chance to like remove anything. And most of the time, blue we have a lot of smaller guys, and then you just clear up their smaller guys. And then one time, the first game I would clear up all the smaller guys, and the second game they were trying to build a big stack. And then they waste all their memory to build a big stack, but then you go into Chaos Mode and clear up that stack, and now they don't have any board.
They go wide, you have an answer. You go tall, you have another answer. So it's just a very versatile deck, like you were saying.
Right. So, it's good against a lot of matchups, surprisingly. I didn't even know that until I actually play tested the deck and then play in the tourneys and everything. But yeah, it was, if you suffer well, right? Because in any combo deck, if you have trouble with clunky hands and you run into like 3 copies of certain cards, it's probably because you're not suffering good enough. But if you suffer well, then the deck will run really well because you have like a bunch of ways that you can stack up, unlike Chessmon, right? But yeah, just remember to have at least one extra X-Antibody in the stack beside your egg, and you'll be fine.
Well, sounds good. I really appreciate your help, Tien, with this video.
No problem.
If you guys enjoyed this content, please go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe, and leave your thoughts and comments below on what you think about this deck build, and if you guys are going to be considering this deck for DigiFest as well. That being said, take care, y'all.